Hi, Hamzi and Adura. We want to start the show. Could you turn on your camera, please? Thank you.
The music's too loud. Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to At America, the U.S. Embassy's American Center. My name is Genara Yusuf, one of the e-guides here in At America. How's everyone doing today? Great? Awesome. I do hope that everyone is doing great today because we have a very special event in which we will be discussing a lot of insightful things. And for those of you new here, At America is the U.S. Embassy's American Center, and our mission is to provide a space for young Indonesians to learn more about the United States through our programs, events, and all the facilities that we offer. Our event for today is called Institutionalizing Accessibility, Reforming from the Inside. It is important for us to acknowledge that everyone has the right to employment and to not be discriminated against. And to achieve that is to create an accessible workplace. An accessible workplace could help businesses create a more productive environment and also to increase performance. We are already joined today by our wonderful moderator and speakers. And first, I would like to call upon the stage our brilliant moderator for today's event, Ambassador Johannes Abraham. Ambassador Johannes Abraham is the current U.S. Ambassador to ASEAN. And next, we also have our speakers joining us today. And with much honor, I would like to call upon the stage our wonderful and lovely speaker for today, Ambassador Gina Abercrombie Winstanley. Ambassador Gina Abercrombie Winstanley is the current Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer of the U.S. Department of State. Next, we also have another speaker, and he is Muhammad Reski Ahyana. Kiki, will you come up to the stage with us? So Reski, or Kiki, is a YCL alum from Indonesia and also CEO of Para Kerja. And we also have our speakers joining us online from Zoom. We have Hamzi Omar, YCL alum from Brunei Darussalam, and also Adura Husna Farooq, YCL alum from Malaysia. And thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much to our moderator and speakers for joining us today. And now let me read a quick biography of our moderator today. Ambassador Johannes Abraham is a current U.S. ambassador to ASEAN, also a former chief of staff and executive secretary of the National Security Council, former Obama administration senior advisor to the National Economic Council, and a deputy assistant for intergovernmental affairs and public engagement. And he also received a BA from Yale College and an MBA with high distinction from Harvard Business School. With that, I will be passing the stage to our moderator. So Ambassador Abraham, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that very kind introduction. And welcome, everybody. We're really excited for today's conversation. I'm particularly grateful to be joined here today and over the next couple of days by the State Department and the first Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer, Ambassador Gina Abercrombie Winstanley, who's been a tremendous leader and from whom we'll hear in just a minute. I want to thank everybody in particular who is tuning in online. I know this is an issue that everyone in this room and everyone online is quite interested in and passionate about. This discussion on reforming from the inside, making institutions more inclusive and accessible. I also want to acknowledge my colleagues from the ASEAN Secretariat and the Indonesian Ministry of Foreign Affairs who are attending today's discussion. And you know, it makes sense that we're having this discussion here in Indonesia, one of the most diverse countries in the entirety of the world, a country that prides itself on its diversity across so many different dimensions. So very grateful to be having this conversation here in Jakarta, in Indonesia, and also grateful for all of Indonesia's leadership as our country coordinator in ASEAN and obviously as ASEAN chair. One of the U.S. government's priorities in working with the ASEAN Secretariat is to support ASEAN's efforts to mainstream diversity, equity, and inclusion and accessibility issues throughout ASEAN mechanisms. Last year, we held a very successful gender ministerial meeting, and this year, we are working with our ASEAN partners, and especially Indonesia, to launch a disability dialogue and support ASEAN's efforts to mainstream disability rights. So again, I'm thrilled to see that our ASEAN Secretariat and Ministry of Foreign Affairs friends are here and able to join us for this discussion. Before we jump into it, I would like to thank and acknowledge our panelists, besides Ambassador Abercrombie Winstanley, who are alumni of the Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative. When YSEALI was launched 10 years ago, we hoped that the program would serve as an incubator for the region's most talented innovators and influencers. And I think, as you'll see today, the program has more than succeeded. In honor of the 10th anniversary of YSEALI this year, I'd like you, our guests and social media influencers, to tag your posts about today's event with the hashtag YSEALI10. Just as an aside, the YSEALI program is one of the things I love most about my job. One of the things that excites me most about being the U.S. ambassador to ASEAN is the opportunity to engage with young leaders around this dynamic and vibrant region. And more importantly than what I think, it's one of the Secretary's most favorite things about engaging in this region. And I know the President has appreciated his opportunities to engage with YSEALI participants as well. So now let me launch into our discussion today and introduce our distinguished guest. To borrow an ASEAN phrase, the U.S. government is mainstreaming diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility across government to include the U.S. Department of State. Secretary Blinken appointed Ambassador, and the President appointed Ambassador Gina Abercrombie Winstanley as the department's first standalone Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer. A truly historic appointment that was made in April of 2021, and they both charged her with reforming the State Department from the inside. Ambassador Abercrombie Winstanley is a 30-year diplomat who has held senior positions, including ambassador to the Republic of Malta, foreign policy advisor to the commander of U.S. cyber forces, amongst other senior roles. Now, this is also a welcome home for her because she served in Indonesia earlier in her career. In fact, during the country briefing earlier this morning, as we were explaining things about Indonesia, I could see her in her head saying, I know, I know. She spent more time in Indonesia than I have and is quite expert in this, amongst many other things. So, Ambassador, thank you for joining us today to talk about your efforts to reform the State Department from the inside.
Thank you, terima kasih. So, selamat siang, everyone. Good to okay. It is awesome, really awesome to be back here in Jakarta. I have many, many warm memories of my time here. And most importantly, to talk about this topic of inclusion and accessibility and doing it from the inside of organizations. We are all going to be part of important companies, organizations as we go through our careers, many of you starting yours, and we want to be agents of change. We want to be able to make where we are better. And so people ask me about the challenge of doing it within an organization that is very old, very conservative, has a high opinion of how it does things, and therefore resistant, shall we say, to change. And it really boils down to wanting the organization to appreciate and value each and every one of us as we are a part of it. And many of those things start with asking questions. Does this work for everyone, for instance? So we've made some small inside steps, and we are getting people to think about the fact that we want to bring out the best capabilities of every single person that works for our organization. So putting in place accommodations that make doing their best work easier for each of us within the organization. So I have a lot of things to talk about, but I want to keep these formal remarks brief because I want to engage in the conversation. So I will stop there. There's a lot to talk about, and I look forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Awesome. Now, before we open the floor to questions, I wanted you to hear about the innovative and inclusive activities taking place across Southeast Asia. Our three panelists have prepared short remarks describing their work. After we listen to all of them, we will welcome questions from the audience, of our panelists, of all of our panelists. Now, our first panelist is from Brunei. Let's hear from Hamzi Omar about his work to advocate on behalf of the visually impaired.
Hello, you hear me?
Yes,
Is it clear? The voice?
yes.
Okay, sure. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang. Hi everyone. My name is Muhammad Hamzi bin Omar. Uh, you can call me Hamzi. Yes, you can call me Hamzi. Since 2009, I became a visual impaired person because of the glaucoma. But I'm lucky I'm not totally blind that time. Since 2015, I'm become a totally blind. Uh, so yeah, now I'm totally blind. Now I'm the president of Brunei Darussalam National Association of the Blind. Uh, in our objective in an NGO to make sure all the visual impaired person or the blind to have their own equality in